Testicles, 1, 2, 3. Testing the microphone. Looks good from here.
Me.
Ooh, a nice, solid waveform. Just what I like.
Ooh, yeah. That's an attractive waveform right there.
Ooh, daddy. You set foot on foreign soil. Only this land isn't ruled by any country or government. In this land, we celebrate music. In this land, we celebrate games. In this land, we celebrate those who compose video game music. Welcome to the VGMbassy. Welcome and thanks for tuning in to another episode of the VGMbassy. This is a show centered around video game music and the amazing online community of fans and podcasters that enjoy it. My name's Ed, and on each episode I'll take the role of Prime VGM Minister and invite a guest VG Ambassador onto the show to share with us their own video game music culture. Or I may share a part of my culture on a solo show. And, I promised a solo show at the end of our last episode. However, I've been lying to you folks this whole time. It's a surprise, blind listen episode. And the solo show is still coming, so don't worry if you were excited about listening to some awesome tunes from Codemasters Quattro games cartridges for the NES. You will still hear them very soon.
I want to hear that one.
Okay, then I'll let you know when it comes out. So, we have today another blind listen episode. Remember I said the last Blind Listen episode was a long time coming? This is like a really long time coming. The longest time. I think I went back in my chat with the Blind Listen soundtrack giver, I guess you could say, presenter. And our chats about it went back to August of 2020. That's how long this has been waiting in the wings.
Yeah, I remember you asking me about it back then and saying it was a good idea, and we just haven't been able to make it happen.
Yeah, exactly. So for our third time on the show, and I don't know, 50th time recording with me down here, 1/3 of Embassy exclusive, Mr. Joe. How you doing, sir?
Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited about this. I have no clue what I'm getting myself into, and hope I don't sound like an idiot.
Yeah, so blind listens are weird because you're used to coming to a show prepared, having knowledge in your head that you want to give out. And it's like the opposite for blind listens. You go in very unprepared, and that is the purpose of the show.
As haphazard as our Embassy exclusive episodes may sound, we do actually do a little bit of prep.
Little bit. There's actually some things written down, and
yes, they're just pencil on a bar napkin notes.
Exactly.
But they're still notes.
The most skeletal of outlines. But the blind listens are a very different beast altogether. For those who aren't familiar, and as a refresher for Joe, a blind listen episode is where I receive a soundtrack from either one of my audio attaché tier patrons or a close friend of the show. And the soundtrack is a soundtrack that I am not familiar with. I don't know anything about. I've never heard of the game. And I also choose a guest to come on with me who is in the same boat. Joe, have you ever heard of the game Burn Cycle?
I have not.
See? Proof. So the two of us are going to listen to pieces of music from the Burn Cycle soundtrack submitted by patron Scott McElhone. And we are going to try to guess what it is. At the end of the show, Scott has written us a testimonial of sorts, which kind of pulls back the curtain. So along the way of the show, we are going to try to guess who wrote the songs, what system it might be on, what the genre of music is, try to come up with a bunch of details, approximate year, and see how close we get to what the actual game is. Sometimes in previous blind listens, we've been able to come pretty close. Sometimes we've been way, way, way off. And it's always fun guessing along with us as you listen. On our Discord server, we have a channel called Blind Listen Spoilers, where if you've already listened to the show, you can post in there and not spoil it in the main channel, or you can kind of guess along as you're listening to the show. It's always a lot of fun. We always have a great time talking about it. So if you're not on our Discord, head over there by going to thevgembassy.com and clicking on the Discord widget on the side of the page. And if you'd like to submit your own Blind Listen soundtrack, you can visit patreon.com/thevgembassy, join our audio attaché tier or higher, and you will have the opportunity to submit to me your own Blind Listen soundtrack for us to guess.
So the audio attachés would be familiar with our back and forth, our banter, and our style of casting together based on listening to Embassy exclusive. Do you think that Scott, when he submitted this game soundtrack, did so specifically for the two of us to discuss, or with us in mind, or was I just sort of an afterthought?
No, I'm pretty sure he had you in mind with this. He did specifically ask for you, and he knows your taste, and he knows he is an avid listener of Embassy exclusive. So hopefully it's stuff that you enjoy, that I enjoy.
I hope I don't disappoint.
So it was basically the two big C's that delayed this episode: COVID and cancer. And now that we're almost done with one, kind of done with one, and done with the other one, thank God.
Yep. So far, so good.
Yeah, we can absolutely hang out and record this. So, when you hear the title Burn Cycle, what comes to mind?
Something like a road rash, maybe. I'm thinking racing or motorcycle fighting. Something fast. Yeah, I'm thinking road rash. Basically, is what comes to mind immediately.
Motorcycles, but on fire. Or burning rubber, something like that.
Something along those lines, yeah.
I'm getting visuals of black and orange and red and very fiery.
Or maybe like a BMX tricky, bicycling.
Oh,
game,
okay, yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, I didn't really think of that, but that totally works too. I'm kind of on the same boat. No idea again who composed it. If it's Japanese, if it's Western, if it's pixel art, if it's 3D, if it's FMV, who knows? But maybe we'll get more clues about that as we go throughout the show.
So all we have is the game title and the track titles.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, that's all we got. And
Yeah.
let's see how it goes.
Exactly. So we've got 10 tracks, it looks like. Some of them are decent length. I'm looking at the playlist here. We've got some 5, 6, 7 minute songs. So very interesting. Based on that, probably not a retro 16 or 8-bit game, because you usually don't get tracks that long.
Right.
So anyways, we're going to listen to... actually, I love the titles of these songs because
It's got my attention.
they're definitely going to keep me guessing for sure. The first one...
Nothing obvious, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The first one is called Karmic Church from the game Burn Cycle. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. That was Karmic Church from the game Burn Cycle on this Blind Listen episode with Joe. Oh, I really like this a lot. I don't know what I was expecting when I came into this, but as soon as that atmospheric like bass line and those keys came in, kind of like soaring, not really soaring, but droning a little bit, I just felt very film noir, kind of an atmosphere, very calm. What'd you think?
So I was expecting, based on the title, something frenetic.
Yeah, screaming guitars or something.
Yeah. So right away, I'm going to withdraw my immediate guess that this is like a motorcycle racing game or like a bicycle tricks kind of game.
Yeah.
Because this just wouldn't fit that at all. The question I asked during the track was, are the songs roughly in order that you would hear them in the game? So this being our first track would be something earlier on in the game, possibly even a title theme, and it wouldn't be a like theme to the last level or something like that. So that would give me a little bit more of a hint.
Yeah.
Well, if it's a title track, it's definitely a darker themed game, something a little more grown up. It's probably not bright colored. I'm guessing like, dank, dark kind of colors.
Yeah, exactly.
Something slow. I really dig the track. I loved the woodblock upbeats.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really cool. I thought they made for cool sounds and fit in well. But beyond it being initial guess that it's a title theme to something, I would immediately think that if this were an RPG, this would be like the cave theme or the basement theme or something like that. As the party goes through the basement to get to wherever.
Definitely getting dark there. Definitely getting atmospheric. The two things that came to mind for me were kind of like the main theme at the beginning of the game from Shadowrun on the Super Nintendo, Marshall Parker's soundtrack. So that's a potential composer maybe if he was going in that same direction. But this would be more like a Red Book audio version of that track. And the piano chords really reminded me of the theme song to the TV show House, and that soundtrack was the title theme was composed by Massive Attack. It's a song called Teardrops, and I really love that song too. So this kind of hit those notes for me. So I'm like, okay, well, I've got the House theme song plus one of my favorite Super Nintendo games and soundtracks, Shadowrun. I'm like, this is just hitting all the right notes for me, literally.
I'm a huge fan of 90s trip hop, so Massive Attack is my jam. So I really enjoyed that first track. Again, no real clue as to what I'd be seeing on the screen as this plays, but I dig the track and I would just listen to it by itself.
I agree, totally. It is CD quality audio. It's an AIFF format, which I believe is Apple's iTunes file format, which means that this may have been downloaded as an iTunes album in lossless quality. So it's a possibility that this game is popular enough to have a retail soundtrack released alongside it. And I don't know, these are all just clues that we're trying to gather together. I think it's way too early to start, giving a concrete guesses, but maybe we'll check in about halfway through the show, see if we can cement or see if our guesses have taken any sort of directions by then.
Yeah, totally.
All right, so you want to move into our next track?
Let's hear what's next.
What's up?
The next track is entitled Flying. That's all I know.
That's all I know, too. All right, we'll be right back.
Why did I pass out? Why would anyone want to kill Kris? What was so special about this data? It spun around my head until the film snapped, and I was left with just a blank white screen.
All right, detectives, that was Flying from Burn Cycle, which, I don't know, I think it gives away a whole bunch of clues.
Oh man, yeah, we have some more info now.
Yeah. So what did you glean from this one?
So the first thing I thought, the first, I'll say, minute of the song came up, and it sounds straight from the game Unsighted, which came out last year. I played on Switch, a Metroidvania game. Loved it. Fantastic game. I talked about it on an episode of Embassy Exclusive once. But there's a track from that game, which is basically the first minute of this track. So that was my initial thought.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
And then obviously the voice comes in, and that completely changed, what I was thinking. I couldn't quite make out what the voice was saying, and granted I was eating cheese balls at the time, but I listened close. I couldn't quite hear what he was saying, so I'm guessing it wasn't giving instructions or a vital part of a story. I'm thinking it was more like artsy, reverberating, musical voices.
Well, I think I heard maybe a little more clearly. It sounds like the voice kind of echoes back and forth between speakers. Maybe it was louder on my side than it was on your side, but he was definitely saying something about waking up, feeling groggy. There was like an acidic taste in the back of his throat or something like that, asking about why they killed Chris, who would have done that. So it sounds to me like there's some sort of a murder mystery, whether this person is a detective who's trying to figure out who killed this person, whether it's a friend, somebody enveloped in this whole situation around a murder. So I'm not sure why it's called Flying. That doesn't seem... I didn't get that feel of flying from this song at all.
It definitely seemed more dream sequence than anything
floating,
else.
Maybe.
I noted while we were listening to it that either they did a poor job mixing the audio with the background sound, because the background music during the voiceover was, I thought, louder than it should have been.
We were both kind of pressing our ears against the speakers trying to make it out.
But I'm guessing that was done on purpose to make it seem more like dreamy or like psychedelic or something like that. Maybe that's what they mean by flying, like the guy's like, dreaming, flying through space or something like that.
Sure, I'll go with that too. This is putting me more squarely in like a PC game, something way more for adults. Not that the first track sounded kiddie at all, but this kind of cements that concept for me, that this would be a game for somebody who likes walking sims or point-and-click adventures, something like that, rather than an action-packed, arcade-style game.
I'm also guessing, based on the quality of the voice work, that it's something within the last 10 years or so.
Okay, yeah.
Because really, before that, voice work in video games was just god-awful.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And this was decent.
Sounds good to me. All right, so we got a long one coming up. This one clocks in at almost 7 minutes long. It's called System Software, so maybe we're going to hear something a little more electronic, perhaps? Something very hacky. I wonder if there's going to be any more voiceovers. Let's find out.
Loading custom software.
long have I been?
About 3 seconds.
3 seconds.
Don't forget you're running at many millions of clock cycles per second. An hour to you is a second out here.
Listen, tell me, how do I get these holes throughout my body?
Track your progress when you enter the Televerse. You got fragmented by my crappy software. Parts of your code are scattered all over the Televerse. Trying to download you back up into your body would be disastrous. Loading custom software.
And we're back. That was System Software from Burn Cycle. Oh man, I'm not high right now, but if I was, that would have been the greatest song ever.
Yeah, I could see that for sure.
I really dig that track. That's just the kind of stuff that I listen to. Based on the fact that they said the title of the game a bunch of times, that gives us another big clue, I'd say. I'm definitely thinking something high-tech, futuristic, like Rise of the Machines, you said Blade Runner, like...
Yeah, dystopian.
I'm thinking, some kind of setting like that. If it's a murder mystery, maybe our detective is a robot of some kind, or something like that is where this is leading me at the moment.
Yeah, cyber implants. There was talk about. So let's talk a little bit about that dialogue in there too.
Yeah,
because we were kind of having differing opinions on what the significance of that dialogue was.
So listening to it, I thought it was just more artsy, just like part of the music, not necessarily game dialogue or character dialogue, was how it hit me, just because of the volume of it. Because again, I had a hard time making out some of the words, so that led me to think that it was more just musical than I'll say like substantive, a character on screen talking.
Yeah, I can see that. My theory is that this is dialogue from the game that is normally more clear in the game, but this is a retail soundtrack with music from the game, but maybe doctored up a little bit to feel more commercial. And so they're taking samples of dialogue from the game and kind of adding it into the music as for more atmosphere kind of a thing. So, again, we won't know until we find out more about the game, but
at least now we know that burn cycle refers not to a bicycle on fire, but computer data cycles.
Yeah, I think it's processor cycles. There was some talk in those vocal samples about uploading data to your body and how it could be dangerous. So there's some cybernetics going on here. The music was great. I mean, it felt, again, very atmospheric, a little on the slower side, but it started off kind of slow, and then this kind of trip hop beat came in, and lots of different musical vignettes almost. This feels definitely like music that was composed using like sample-based software. It was kind of like a steady drum beat, and then these different parts would come in, and there was very defined barriers between these different pieces. And having composed with sample-based software myself, I could almost see how the song was laid out in my head as we went through it.
I definitely found myself like grooving along to the beat throughout the song. Really liked that, and I thought the hi-hat that was mixed in every musical phrase was cool too.
Yeah, it definitely gave it a little bit of a swing to it, and all that trip hoppiness going on there. Okay, so next track, moving on from a very high-tech system software track title to something very much less so. This one is called Buddha's Voice. Change in tone here, maybe more...
Another religious reference.
Yeah, maybe more ethnic sounding, maybe a little more exotic. I don't know. We'll see.
Welcome, my sons. Have you come seeking wisdom? Are you willing to kill your ego? beginning was the tree, beneath which Galton sat and meditated for 40 nights before his epiphany. You must pick a leaf, but pick the right leaf, the others are virus. They will infect you and destroy you and your reality. Let your fear be heard. That is the beginning of the path to enlightenment. Welcome, my sons.
And we're back. That was Buddha's Voice, the 5th track from Burn Cycle. And before we get into our discussion of the track, noting that it was the 5th track, it was only the 4th one we've played. And I look at the track list and I see that track number 1 is missing.
Notably missing.
So that would either suggest it's either no good or that it gives away something very obvious about the game.
Yeah, or it's like a Sega CD game where the first track is the data track. And usually
good point.
Discs like that, the audio tracks would start at 2. So, could be anything. But that could mean that it is I don't know. This doesn't feel like Red Book audio from a game, to me, anyway. But this could be, like I said, a Saturn or a PlayStation game or a Sega CD game. I think I would know if it was a Sega CD game. I'm pretty aware of the entire Sega CD library.
I'm still guessing newer, much newer than Sega Saturn or Sega CD.
Yeah, it does feel that way. So that having that first track missing might be more of
maybe something done in that style or like an homage to a game from back then?
Maybe. Or a PC game that just from later on that also had these as CD audio on it. The music itself, what you think?
So I'm definitely getting more of a reflective, meditative vibe based on the title of the track and just the sound of it. You can't go wrong with a good gong every now and then. But if I had to guess where this would fit into a game, I'm thinking the character has learned something new and is in a meditative state, thinking about what he's learned and hoping to solve a puzzle or like figure out what a clue means or something.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I took it more literally, like the character visited a Buddhist shrine to get more clues and was met with some sort of a yogi that sounded like a cross between Alec Guinness and Alan Rickman, speaking in riddles and such. So that's what I got from it. But I felt like it was, I said that it would potentially be kind of an exotic sounding song. I was right on that.
Yep.
but fairly authentic, like Indian music. It's got the finger cymbals, and I really liked those feminine vocal pieces that were kind of filtered a little bit to make them sound kind of like a violin, which is popular in that music too. So it kind of blended the sounds. It reminded me of that one track from Axiom Verge. I don't remember the name of it.
Oh, is that Inexorable?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Inexorable is a little more glitchy with the
On
vocals,
purpose, yeah.
but this kind of reminded me of that as well.
I didn't think of that, but now that you mention it, yeah, I hear that a lot. That's definitely. I'm picturing the main character like looking up at that female-looking face from.
the big robot alien head with all the wires coming out of it.
What's the guy's name? Is it Chase?
Chase.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and I can't unsee that or unhear that now. Yeah, that's all I hear now. That's definitely seems to be what we were listening to.
Yeah, I don't think this is a Metroidvania though.
No, not at all. It's still there isn't enough variety. There hasn't been a fast-paced track yet. There hasn't been I'll say an exciting track yet.
Right.
It's much more, as you say, atmospheric, meditative, trippy for sure, which I dig. I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
But it's definitely fitting with the open world walking sim murder mystery. Definitely not a lot of action going on.
Correct. Dialogue,
sort of game.
puzzles, figuring things out.
You're not fighting monsters. You're not in battles.
Yeah.
But you're trying to figure out a story or a mystery.
It's a thinking man's game. All right, so I don't know. The next track might be a little more upbeat. It's called Into the Televerse, which, based on some of the voices and story we've heard so far from these songs, maybe this is what plays when you jack into the Matrix,
The
as
Oasis
it were.
or something.
Yeah, some sort of a
That's what I'm picturing as well.
electronic landscape. All right, let's take a listen. We'll be right back.
Instant crisis!
What the feather plucking heck did we just listen to? That was Into the Televerse, a 7-minute long ethereal soundscape with a surprise plot twist at the end.
Yeah, really. That was, didn't see that one coming. I was almost lulled into a nice little rest there, and something snuck up on us.
Yeah, for sure. So as we were discussing, as we were listening to the track, this is more cementing the fact that this is a slow, methodic, atmospheric, adult-ish game.
Yeah, I was waiting for something to make me think otherwise, just like an action track or something fast-paced or something lighthearted, and that just hasn't happened. So I'm sticking with my guess that it's that sort of game for now, and I don't want to like create a bias for myself and have all my future thoughts be in that vein, but I'm not hearing anything to suggest otherwise.
Right, and that's what I usually do with these shows too, is I will start with a theory and then try to disprove it. And if I can't disprove that initial theory, that usually ends up being what I go with by the end of the show.
So this was Into the Televerse, which makes me think immediately our hero or our detective or whoever he is meant to either upload himself into the Oasis or out of something and into the real world, but instead he finds himself in a lonely, desolate, techie place. You said like in Tron.
Yeah, wireframe, bleak.
Yeah, you can't see anything in any direction, or you can't see anything of substance in any direction. And then about halfway through, you noted that it gets more sinister sounding, like something's not quite right. Something's a little dark or a little twisted, or things aren't lining up the way they're supposed to, or just something feels wrong. Then you get hit with that little bit of excitement right at the end.
Yeah, really interesting.
So something big happens. Some monster, bad guy, something comes out, and you got to run for it.
Yeah.
Is what's happening.
Yeah, I'm wondering if this is a dynamic soundtrack that was made into a retail soundtrack. So I wonder if these pieces of music are all, they loop and loop and loop until you get to that next area, and then it kind of changes. And so that end part isn't necessarily a scripted end part. It's just whenever you get to that part, you end up getting there, which would explain the samples of dialogue and stuff, and why this was more, to me, sounds more like a retail version of a video game soundtrack than anything else.
I gotta agree. Yeah.
And I was wondering why this song was 7 minutes long, because I was like, okay, it's not that it was boring, it was interesting, but I felt like they could have gone through those movements a little more quickly, and I realized they wanted to, exactly what they did with you, Joe, kind of lull you into that false sense of security and then really surprise you at the end.
Yeah, I'm picturing the guy like turning around and, there's something right there.
Crisis!
Yeah.
And the crisis begins and goes on for another couple of minutes or so. But our next track has an interesting title. What do we got, Joe?
Coming up next is Psychic Roulette.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, let's give it a listen.
Maybe kind of a casino vibe.
Casino? I bet not, but you never know. Let's see.
Maybe more like Russian roulette than actual roulette, yeah.
we're back. That was track number 7, Psychic Roulette from Burn Cycle. I feel like we were at the club.
For sure. And we were talking about what we think this game might be as a detective murder mystery. You always end up at a club. Whether it's like a film noir kind of a deal and you end up at a jazz or a swing club, or it's a modern or future one where you end up at some sort of a dance club, like you always end up there. So I feel like this is where that would take place.
There's always a murder at the club.
Yeah, or something
or drug
shady
dealing
going
out in the
on.
back room.
Yeah, exactly. Or somebody's tied up in the back room or whatever. This is a very traditional house music, standard keyboard stabs, very samey kind of drum beat with those like low frequency oscillation modified synths going up and down. So
if I had to go in a different direction with what I thought about what the game could be, this track would have made me think, I said as we were listening to it, I'm thinking a vertical shoot 'em up bullet hell kind of game where, you know, you're in outer space and your spaceship is trying to maneuver between the billions of asteroids and other ships shooting at it, and this is the track playing during that.
Or your spaceship is the detective.
Oh, an outer space
And
mystery.
you're trying to figure out which boss killed your other spaceship friend.
Maybe.
It's the only way to fit that theory into all the other music that we have.
I still think we're on track with our thoughts about what type of game this is.
Yeah.
But if I had to think something else, that track sounded like it could have been out of like a futuristic outer space shoot 'em up.
Definitely. So, in terms of game era, a lot of this music really feels to me like late 90s, early 2000s stuff. So, I don't know. The production feels really good, and it feels like it might be more modern production, but the style of music seems to have come out of like the PlayStation or Saturn era to me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm thinking more an homage to that style than something actually from the PS1.
Okay, that's a good way to look at it too.
If I had to guess.
Yeah, all right. Or a composer that kind of grew up composing music on that era,
And is trying
they
to
are still in
harken
that.
back to that, yeah.
Yeah,
I can see that.
I can see that too. All right, coming up next is the longest track on the soundtrack. It's almost 8 minutes long.
Yowza.
Yeah, this one is called Zip, and if we know anything from these long tracks is that if you're patient, you will be rewarded. So maybe Zip will reward us as well.
Something. There's two kinds of people in this world. Those that rush and those that don't. Now you've got your derma rush, that's for the fleshies. You've got your skydiving, your racing, your orbit jumping. All those things that move your body through time and space. So do it. 100% totally synthesized, fully transcendental, biocontrolled electronic rush. We're talking beyond flesh, we're talking beyond electrons, we're talking beyond silicon. This is 1,000, no? 100,000 times stronger than any rush you can get through motion. looking my chain? This sucker's fragged. You need a new one.
How much?
Afraid I can only take cash for that item. Looking for Meltdown, mate. Be sure to catch me later if there's anything else you need. Meltdown, mate.
Oh man, I'm jonesing bad, man. I need some of that zip. And we're back. That was Zip from Burn Cycle. Whew, that was intense.
Yeah, dude. That was phenomenal, actually, in terms of, like, late 90s, early 2000s, like that era that I was just talking about, in terms of the electronica from that era. This is a really, really well-produced, amazing example of it.
For sure, yeah.
It just moves to several different places, lots of different movements, broken up with these dialogue segments, very, very rich electronics. Keeps you moving. Like, I can't say enough good things about this. If I had discovered this song back when I was listening to, like, all of those bands that I discovered from, like, the Wipeout soundtrack, like Fluke, Underworld, and Alltech, and all those guys, like, this would have fit perfectly in with that soundtrack.
Yeah, for sure. Although, of course, it begs the question, was it made then, or is it a throwback to that era?
Yeah, exactly. And in talking about, well, actually, we were talking a little bit about the first segment of dialogue, where that guy with the British accent was kind of, it sounded like he was hawking something. He was talking about the features of something, but really kind of playing it up. And so our theory at that point, we talked a little bit about it and was like, oh, well, maybe Zip is the illegal contraband, whatever it is, be it a drug, be it illegal technology, some sort of enhancement, software. Maybe that's it. And then right after that, there was that dialogue. How much do you want? Like, they're trying to make a deal.
So that's definitely the realm we're in.
Yeah. So there's drugs involved. There's a murder involved.
High-tech or robot or futuristic cybernetic timeline going on.
Yeah. Along with Buddhism and psychotic people talking about crises. I don't know, man. This game is a roller coaster. The soundtrack is a roller coaster, and it sounds like the game is a roller coaster, too.
Yeah. Based on everything so far, it's had been, I'll say, mostly atmospheric, but the last few tracks have been kind of acidic, electronic house themes.
Yeah.
And I really dig it. I'm enjoying it, but I'm definitely not hearing anything that's going to make me change my mind about what kind of game we're talking about at this point.
Yeah, agreed. I have a theory. It's a theory not based on anything except for the kind of music it is. But the composer Richard Jakes popped into my head. He composed the music for Metropolis Street Racer. And in Metropolis Street Racer, the soundtrack was a series of radio stations, all in different genres. But there was a lot of dance. There was a lot of, like, atmospheric stuff. Very well produced. Like, produced on the quality that is equal to what this is. So, in terms of composers and me trying to desperately come up with at least one name that might have worked on this game, he seems to be, in my mind, the closest name to what this is. I would probably has a 0.5% chance of being right, but it just reminds me of that level of production.
As good a guess as any at this point.
Yeah. Any ideas from you as far as composers go? I know you're not as well versed in.
I'm not, especially not in this particular genre. For, I'll say, older bleeps and bloops, I know that stuff a lot better. For this type of music, I just don't know my composers as well. The only thing that really, the two references to other games that we made so far, one to Unsighted and one to Axiom Verge, still kind of ring true to me. So if I have to look up the composer to Unsighted.
I'm going to do it right now.
Thank you. If I had to guess somebody having worked on the soundtrack for this game, I would guess that composer. I don't know the name of the person off the top of my head.
Unsighted composer was Fernanda Diaz.
That's going to be my as good a guess as any.
Yeah, so Richard Jakes or Fernanda Diaz. I guess those will be probably our two final guesses, considering the only names we can come up with.
Unless we hear something really distinctive in these next few tracks.
Yeah, for sure. In our second track, the voiceover made reference to a person named Kris being killed. This track is called Kris VR. I guess we'll probably, I'm sure there's probably going to be some dialogue in here, so maybe we'll figure out what exactly that means. So we'll be right back. All right, get off that hammock.
Oh,
Take off that VR helmet.
What? I'm awake. I'm here.
That was Kris VR from the game Burn Cycle, our blind listen soundtrack of the day. Okay, so definitely way different than Zip.
Yep.
Maybe this is how you feel when you're on Zip.
Yeah, you're walking on a digital beach, your feet in the sand, everything's nice and pleasant. I kept waiting for the other foot to drop, like into the Televerse, like something bad or exciting or big to happen, but it just didn't. It was just kind of chill. So maybe, what do you think?
I don't know. I mean, it says VR, so I'm assuming that this is an artificial sense of calmness. And I made reference as we were talking during listening to it, Digital Beach, which I got from this. It's got a very MIDI pan flute, and everything is very synthesized. There's no real instruments in here. And so I'm taking that to mean that this is kind of a artificially created calmness.
Or I'm thinking more like this is the afterlife for Kris.
Oh, maybe.
And, he's died and he's approaching, like heaven or nirvana or something, idyllic like that.
Yeah. Or maybe after you die, your consciousness gets uploaded to like a VR world or something.
Yeah, something like that. Maybe that fits.
Yeah. And this would be kind of like the utopia area of, this VR world. So, yeah, okay, that's interesting. I'm curious to see where this would actually play in the game and in what context. There were some voices there, but we couldn't make them out. It sounded like they were being played backwards. So I actually did put this song into Audacity and reversed it and tried to make out, but it didn't make any sense then either. So
good guess, though.
Yeah, it could be a foreign language that I'm not familiar with. It could be just absolute gibberish. I have no idea. Maybe we will also be able to find that out.
Yeah. It was a good guess. I'm glad we listened to it backwards, but it didn't give us any more clues, and don't know where we're going from here. I like I said, kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, like into the Televerse, but it didn't.
Yeah.
So who knows?
All right, so we got 2 songs left. What's our penultimate track?
The next track is called A Beautiful Relationship.
Oh, all right. So maybe we're gonna keep on the same keel as Kris VR.
Happy.
Seriously.
Anytime you need any personal services, just give me a call. Touching, stroking, or fondling. I'll give you a discount. You got a cute ass. You could use a little defrosting. You're looking to get your rocks off? Just give me a call. like to keep my knees below my ears on a first date, just give me a call. A beautiful relationship.
Hey, baby. I'd like to be defrosted.
Yeah. That was a beautiful relationship from Burn Cycle, and that was overtly sexual. I'm just gonna go ahead and let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah, at first I thought maybe they were going for like double entendres, something like that, but no, probably not. That was a little more explicit than I was expecting. At the beginning, it rang strongly of 30s, 40s mystery noir. I love that what I think was a double bass playing throughout. I thought that was a really cool track.
Yeah, brush drum kit.
I'm wondering what sort of interactions our hero is having at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. You were talking about, you mentioned the term happy ending because this is close to the end of the soundtrack. So I wonder if these are locations that our protagonist can visit, but it's more of a non-linear kind of game. So these are just the different locations you have available to you, but it's not set up in a soundtrack sense in which, it's the order in which you necessarily will visit them in the game.
You've unlocked the virtual whorehouse.
Exactly. For fondling, touching, and whatever.
Defrosting. Don't forget defrosting. Yeah, don't want to get too frosty.
So I think the parts that sound cheesy in this song were cheesy on purpose because of all of the very earnest music we've listened to. I think we have a good sense that this composer knows what they're doing.
For sure.
So when those really kind of cheesy MIDI keyboards come in for that solo, it just sounds so off and fake. I think they're trying to get the point across that this is not authentic noir stuff. There's something off about this, something put on about this.
The heroes in the virtual world are not actually experiencing what is on screen at the moment.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're right. I mean, this might be a brothel in VR or in the Matrix or whatever. So that's a good point too. That might be why the music is kind of fakey.
Note to self, look her up later and see if she's hot.
Well, we're getting close to that because our last track is upon us. And after this, we will unwrap the game, unveil all of the details. Hopefully, Scott will have some good information for us, and then we'll do some old web sleuthing of our own to try to come up with some more deets. Last track is called Meltdown, and I know there was a mention of Meltdown in that Zip song, as Meltdown being maybe a different type of drug or enhancement or something. Yeah. But I don't know. So I'm expecting some chaos out of this one, just because of the title, because it's the last track. I don't think we're going to hear something like Kris VR or Beautiful Relationship.
Maybe final boss-ish, if there are battles in this game. Who knows?
Something pretty intense, or something just dark and desolate. Let's find out. We'll be right back.
Meltdown, man. Meltdown, man.
All right, we're back. That was Meltdown from Burn Cycle. Not what I was expecting in terms of intensity and tone, but oh my God, was that good.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I don't even know where to begin. Joe, you were having some thoughts. Maybe you can coherently say something?
I love the intro, and I found myself like waiting for like a fast drum line or bass line or something like that.
Oh, based on those ARPs. Yeah, it felt
at
like
the beginning, and
yeah.
I was waiting for it, and I wanted it to like hit me hard and like blow me away, but it didn't. It was much more chill and more musical and more. I couldn't think of the right word. You suggested maybe like Latin-y. I thought it was kind of reggae-ish. In terms of
it's got a good shuffle
the type
to it.
of feel, but I can't put just the right word to it. But it didn't have the intensity that I was expecting.
Yeah, but still extremely good. I was pleasantly surprised, even though I was not expecting that kind of a feel once the drums came in. And then just, again, the textures are amazing. You had those really nice higher bell pads in there, and then that gritty kind of burp, like that staccato bass that would come in every measure or so.
Yeah, I love that. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, just really gave it a great feel. Everything just blended super well together. A great example of why I think that, like the more cheesy segments from the Beautiful Relationship song were intentionally cheesy, because you can't make this and make that and do that by accident.
This team or person knows what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. We were also thinking this was probably a credits track or an ending track.
Yeah, epilogue, closing, ending credits, something like that. I mean, the main action or resolution of the story has happened, and this is kind of what takes you out.
Okay, so that's it, man. That's all the music we've got. So we've got, I guess, some guesses here. So give me a year, plus or minus 5 years. Like, when do you think this game was made?
All right, so I'm going to guess 2012 to 2016.
Somewhere around there?
Yeah, so not as old as it was meant to sound. I agree with you 100% that it has that Sega CD era sound to it, but I think it's more an homage or a throwback to that done within the last 10 years. I'm going to guess between 2012 and 2016.
Okay. I'm going to go less on the homage part and go more on the authentic part. So I'm going to say like between 1999 and 2004, somewhere around there. Just a really polished contemporary game for that era.
I feel like if that were the case, we'd have heard of it.
Perhaps. But there are a lot of PC games from that era that came out on CD-ROM that I was not privy to, so it's possible it could have slipped. Or, maybe the game was made and released specifically in the UK and never came out over here, or your European release or something like that.
Yeah, possibly, given the voiceovers that we heard.
Yeah.
That might make sense.
So there's that. For composers, I mentioned Richard Jakes, you mentioned Fernando Diaz.
Just to throw a name out there.
Yeah, I don't
have anything more than that to guess.
I'm just really pleased. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if a 90s electronica act, like Juno Reactor or Underworld or something, actually composed the music for this game. The electronic music was just that good.
Oh, yeah. I would love to listen to this in my car, and I plan on doing that.
Yeah, for sure. And also to find, if the artist has made other soundtracks that have electronic music in it, I would totally go for that, for sure. Genre of the game, so we're looking at probably detective, sci-fi kind of a deal based on the dialogue.
I'm thinking futuristic, science fiction, high-tech, robotic, cybernetic characters, or there's definitely some kind of an Oasis type VR world or something like that going on. I'm thinking if it's not a point and click, it's definitely a explore your way through the world. Not a lot of action, not any battling or anything like that, but just uncovering the story and learning, solving the mystery.
It's nice when the dialogue in the game kind of tells you what it is, but
that too.
It takes a lot of that guesswork out. Unless it's just completely trying to throw us for a loop and it's actually a cutesy fruit-based go-kart game.
This is actually the soundtrack for Fruit Ninja 2.
Yeah, exactly. Fruit Detective 2. All right, so we've got that, and I don't know, what about the art style? Do you think it is like a FMV, like digitized real people? Do you think it's a darkish kind of pixel art game? What's your...
I'm envisioning dark pixel art.
Pixel art.
For sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Are you ready? We're going to read what Scott had to say, and he's going to...
Oh man, moment of truth.
I know. Tell us how correct we are. All right, so let's open up this document. And Scott says, as an original owner of a Panasonic 3DO, I've always been a fan of this era of console gaming, which was probably obvious from my first blind listen featuring Nova Storm. Burn Cycle, a true cyberpunk point-and-click adventure. All right, we got that. I swear I had this OST lined up well before episode 45. Has everything you would imagine from a game that could only be born in the 90s, including not only these delicious low-res FMV cutscenes, but also simply amazing cover art for the jewel case and being produced on a format that was doomed from its start in the CDI, or Compact Disc Interactive. Yes, Screenbook Audio. Oh, and of course, an absolute killer soundtrack. As you heard, it's a sick 90s techno collab between Simon Boswell and Kris Whitten. I'm not familiar with them, but now I want to find out more.
Oh, man.
Alas, that latter part about the CDI format made obtaining this blind listen OST very challenging. While there is a 2017 remastered version of the entire OST currently on Spotify, Bandcamp, etc., in order to honor the rules of the blind listen, our VGM minister was adamant the OST procured be period-specific, challenge accepted. Special shout-outs to the Dyad, Brian from Pixelated Audio, and the VGM Ripping crew from Pixelated Audio Discord server. We collectively determined that the Green Book CDI format was not readable on Mac OS to rip the OST, and that the interwebs have very little to offer to CDI OST rips. Luckily, Burn Cycle was sold in a 2-disc format, one being the CDI version of the game for the console, and the other being the OST on a normal Redbook Audio CD format, the later which was used to rip the soundtrack for this blind listen. I'm not sure if all Philips CDI games are like that, but if anyone has any insights, please leave comments in the VGMbassy Discord or Facebook page. Thanks, Ed, for the chance to share this OST with the VGMbassy community. All right, so it was a soundtrack made for the game, sold alongside the game. CDI, man, now I wish you didn't sell your CDI.
Yeah, oh man. That I would definitely want to go out and like get this game now if I still have that system. Someday I'll pick up another one.
Yeah, MAME is actually getting really good with CDI emulation, so maybe if I track the game image of this down, I can see if I can get it running in MAME. That might be fun to
I'm
check
also
out.
immediately going to price charting so I can see how much this game goes for now. It's either like a $2 game that was never bought by anyone ever, or it's like $200 because it's super collectible and you can't get them anymore.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to YouTube and let's see if we can find Burn Cycle CDI.
Oh
long
yeah,
play. It's about
super
an hour.
low pixelated.
Okay.
FMV. No kidding.
Very interesting. Okay, so it's like drawn over. It looks like some of it's like CG. So it's got like a MIDI soundtrack.
Is that Kris?
For the gameplay. This actually looks pretty good. Like it seems to move pretty fast.
Yeah, for CDI, this isn't near as crappy as I would have expected.
This is kind of
the
cool.
gameplay, not the soundtrack.
Yeah.
The soundtrack was amazing. We can all agree on that.
All right, so yeah, it's reduced color, so the FMV is better clarity, and it's got, I don't know, it's like a full motion video point and click adventure.
On the outskirts in his bunker. It was easy to find, but hard to get in.
Decent voiceovers. This is cool, man. Walking through the city, it's got pretty smooth, movement from one screen to another. FMV characters walking in the background that you can walk up to and talk to.
Is this it then?
I want to play this game.
Yeah, me too.
All right, so let's take a look at these composers. I'm very curious. And we'll go over to Moby Games. We'll see. Burn Cycle was released on CDI in 1994, Mac in 1995, and Windows 3.x in 1995 as well.
The audio production on this is way better than anything I would have expected for 1994.
Absolutely. So Simon Boswell. That name sounds really familiar. I'm going to Google him.
Help us out here, interwebs.
Simon Boswell, British film score composer. BAFTA-nominated British film score composer, conductor, producer, and musician with more than 100 credits to his name. No wonder he sounds familiar. He's from London, United Kingdom. Oh, Sex Gang Children. Okay, so he was part of like a British new wave group.
What are his credits?
He's worked with musicians from bands as Blur, Orbital, Sex Pistols, Echo and the Bunnymen. Blur and Orbital were two of the bands like lumped in with all the other Wipeout era bands that I was listening to back in the day. He's got an art project called Blink. Not a lot of games under his belt.
A lot of horror flicks?
Yeah, he composed the music for The Crying Game, Dinner with the Vampire, There's Only One Jimmy Grimble, whatever that is.
He's been doing it for a long time.
Churchill of the Hollywood Years. He's been scoring since 1998.
No, that's the second column. Go all the way to the bottom. Back in the 80s.
Oh, it's reverse. Okay, yeah, so 1985 with Phenomena, a Dario Argento movie.
Film.
Oh, yeah, that's the one with Jennifer Connelly. Okay,
Yeah,
I've actually seen that. Yep. Very cool. All right, so that's
nice.
awesome. His last credit, the last film credit was Ashens and the Quest for the Game Child in 2013. But, he's like I said, over 100 credits to his name. Worked with Elton John, Dolly Parton. Crazy. All right, so we were definitely right in saying that this composer knows what he's doing, because it's fairly obvious that he does.
Yeah.
Even on this Wikipedia, so
by 94, when this game came out, he had already done tons of movies, and he wasn't a newbie at that point.
Yeah, at least 15 credits to his name before that, and that's only what's on Wikipedia. I'm sure there was other stuff as well, because this is just film credits, so I'm sure all his musical credits are... Oh, plus TV credits. Holy cow. Anyways, amazing. So I am very pleased. I now want to kind of like track down more of his stuff to see what else he's done. In terms of the dance music, because that was really, really good.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun to listen to.
Let me take a look at one other thing. Chris Whitten is a British drummer. Okay, interesting.
Not familiar with him.
Yeah, so Chris Whitten, probably just a musician. I'm pretty sure that Simon Boswell probably wrote all the music, and then Whitten might have done some of the percussion and performing.
Okay.
Anyways, yeah, so... That's it. That's the game Burn Cycle, released in 1994 for the CDI.
I didn't realize there were any decent games for the CDI. And maybe this isn't a great game, but the soundtrack sure is awesome.
Yeah, and technologically, I mean, it looks good. Especially for the CDI, it looks much more playable than a lot of the other CDI games that I've seen out there.
And I'm guessing it's obscure enough that it never got a remastering or a remake of any kind.
Yeah. And, well, it's available in Windows, too, so I wonder if it's compatible with, like, DOSBox or something, so you can play it on a modern console or a modern computer as well. All right, cool. So, final thoughts, Joe.
I love that. That is my jam for sure. I've, over the years, gotten more and more into trip-hop and electronica, and this was just right up my alley. Had never heard of the game before, well, obviously that was the whole point. I feel like I would love to get myself a copy of this game, or if not, to at the very least download the soundtrack and play it in my car, turn the bass way up high, and just sort of jam with it. Good times.
Absolutely. Definitely. What about the blind listen format? Would you be willing to do another one in the future?
Oh, yeah, in a heartbeat. That'd be great. I enjoyed this a lot. I'm glad I wasn't completely wrong. I was wrong about the timeline.
The game kind of held our hand, I think, a little bit in terms of guessing it.
I guess it was probably a little easy, and there wasn't enough variety for us to be completely thrown in the wrong direction. I mean, we guessed it after, one or two tracks, I think.
Yeah.
I really like this format and would definitely do another one of these with you in a heartbeat.
Awesome. And, since Todd has already done a blind listen with me as well, it might be fun for the three of us to get together and try to guess the soundtrack at some point.
Yeah, good times. We could do that as an Embassy exclusive blind listen.
Oh, that might be fun. That might be super fun. All right, so to wrap up the show, I want to thank Trevin Hughes, a.k.a. Dread, for the podcast theme song, and Indira J. for all of the lovely website and VGMbassy artwork. You can find us on Twitter at the VGMbassy, or you can head over to thevgembassy.com and check out all of our posts there. You can email me at thevgembassy@gmail.com, and you can also head over to patreon.com/thevgembassy, where, as I said at the beginning of the show, if you're an audio attaché member, you can select a soundtrack for me and a guest VG ambassador to guess as well. As I do on every single episode, I like to thank all of my Patreon patrons for helping make this show what it is. And starting at the tourist level, we've got Cameron Childs, Nathan Cooper, and Dan Lawton, aka The Phantomire. Our VG emissaries, Chris Myers, Chris Murray, Chris Steenerson, and Ganon11, along with Jordan Worma, Kyle Kroll, The Dyad, and Daryl Bowers, aka The Last Weekend. Our audio attaché members Cameron Worma, Carlos from the Heroes 3 podcast, and Scott McElhone. Our special agents Ryan Steele and Volt Supreme, and our VG ambassadors Frankly Zappa and the patron saint of VGM podcasts, host of A VGM Journey, Alex the Messenger. All right, guys, that was a great show. That was a lot of fun. I can't wait to do another blind listen in the future. If you guys have any suggestions for me, reach out via email, via DM on Discord, and let me know. Maybe we can do another one very soon. Joe, thank you for hanging out and guessing with me. That was a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me, and thanks, Scott, for picking this soundtrack. This was great.
Especially thank you for your patience, Scott. We know this has been a very, very long time coming. I'm glad it was worth the wait, for us at least. I hope it was worth the wait for you.
Are you not entertained?
All right, so you'll hear both of us. Patrons, you'll hear both of us on the next Embassy exclusive coming out, hopefully in a couple weeks.
And that other guy will be there too.
Yeah, that Todd dude. And coming up probably next month will be a solo show, and we'll kind of head into Codemasters and their Quattro Games soundtracks, full of tons of amazing Western NES music. All right, so until then, stay safe, keep listening to awesome VGM. Take care, everyone.
Good night.